Welcome to the story of every man. Today's guest is Jose Sanchez, and we're welcoming back Luis Castanon. How's it going, guys?
Great, man. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Luis? Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I didn't think I'll be able to come back, but I'm here.
Normally, they don't let you back.
They don't, I know. Yeah.
Let's get to know Jose Sanchez, shall we?
All right.
All right.
Bring it on.
Are you single?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And ready to mingle.
How old are you, Jose?
How old am I?
49.
Oh, yeah, 49.
Are you serious?
I'll be halfway to 50 this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
You look way better than I do for that age.
Yeah, you're still ahead of me.
Depends on his papers, too. Some papers he's got say he's 35. Some of them.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, it depends.
Depends
on
which
he's
passport
using.
I use.
I did not know that was your age, man. That's pretty good.
I know I don't
You look
look
great
it.
for your age.
Thank you.
Where were you born?
In Mexico City.
Mexico City?
Yeah, Mexico
How long
City.
have you been in the U.S.?
So we immigrated here, my family and I, in the summer of 81.
Summer of 81?
So I was 5 years old. We came here undocumented, crossing the river. In fact, I still remember we came on the inner tube. Well, at least my uncles and my father pushed us in the inner tube, me, my mom, and my sisters. The Rio Grande was a little bit different back in 81 than it is now.
Yes.
Back then, it was a lot easier for people to come over here with immigration and stuff. So my dad had been working here in East Texas at the TV Ball Meat Packing here on Pine Tree Road. And he would go back to Mexico, visit us. And then he worked here 10 months, go back 2 months. So when I was 5, my mom said, that's it. Either staying here or we're going with you, because I don't want this marriage of I don't get to see my husband. And so he said, okay, vámonos. So in the summer of 81, we came here. Luckily, didn't get caught trying to come in. And next, I wake up in the car and I'm in Longview, Gilmore area. So my dad was here in Longview. And luckily, we lived in Spring Hill. So I've been, raised in Spring Hill since kindergarten until 12. There in that same area. So, it's as a Latino, I think I had a little bit different upbringing than your typical Latino here in Longview. I played sports, athlete, finished second in my class, salutatorian. But, coming in as immigrants, like typical immigrant family, we're poor. My mom never went to school. My dad went to like third grade. We didn't have documentation. We were scared that immigration was going to take us. At that time, I remember the raids happening in Longview. Being in Spring Hill, I never crossed 80 that much, and much less go to South Longview.
Yeah.
At that time, there wasn't as many Hispanic or Latinos as you have now, but there was still the fear of immigration, don't get caught. And in fact, I've been told that some schools at that time weren't even trying to let immigrant kids into the school.
Oh, wow.
Without a social security number. But luckily, we had some people that were already here that kind of helped us in Spring Hill. And so I think it's interesting that a lot of that's still kind of repeating now.
Yeah.
With the political thing that we'll get to later.
Did you have friends that were also immigrants coming up?
No, zero.
Yeah. So it was just
me
figuring it
Yeah.
out. Okay.
figuring it out. And I would cry. My mom says I would cry. I want to go back to Mexico. Why'd you take me away from my friends? Why'd you take away from my grandparents? Because I was very close to my grandmother. I want to go back. I can't talk to people.
You wanted to go back when you
I
were
wanted to go back, yeah. And it's, and I'm sure a lot of immigrants, we were still scared, still making, my dad didn't make a lot of money. So I remember, we didn't buy stuff. It was garage sales. There were several churches that found out who we were or whatever and would come and donate bags of clothing or whatever to our family. And so that's all I remember. So it's very poor, but when you're poor, you don't really know, and it kind of, I guess later, at Spring Hill at that time, there was a lot of kids that, my class, were about 78 of us, that
there were 78 in your graduating class?
in my graduating class, yeah.
That's not a lot of people. That's weird.
And like 25 of us or so were together since kindergarten.
Oh, okay.
So, that shows the closeness that we had as a class.
Okay.
It's interesting because growing up in Spring Hill on country music, on, football, and boots and cowboy hats, the typical East Texas Caucasian environment. That's all I knew. I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that's all I knew.
That's what you were relating to.
And then after we got our green card, after '86, when Ronald Reagan was president, they passed an immigration reform. The last immigration reform they passed is when we were able to go back to Mexico. And under that reform, if you showed that you've been here since January of '82, that was the cutoff date, and you've been here since then and haven't had any issues criminally, and you could prove that you were here, you could get your green card. So that's how I was able to get my green card. Because if it wasn't for that reform, if it wasn't for Ron Reagan, I probably wouldn't be here. You know, when we got our green card, or resident card, you can say, it'd been 10 years since I'd gone back to Mexico that we finally went back. So every summer or Christmas, we'd be gone for 2 weeks. And, you know, my dad, he worked for Cassidy Jones for 20-something years out in the lumber yard. The lumber.
Was that his job most of your life, or did he do something before that?
No, before that he worked in the ranchos in the West Texas, Odessa, and the ranches.
But y'all stayed here while he was doing
No. When we moved here, that's all he worked.
Okay.
But a lot of people know him through Cassidy Jones, a lot of the contractors, because he was very easygoing. Everybody loved him. He got along with everybody. Hard worker. I mean, John, this is, I think that's where because I work a lot, get the work ethic from him and my mom, like a lot of, Latinos, is the work ethic. Because my dad, I guess the older I got, I was like, well, why aren't you taking your sick days so we can stay more in Mexico? Well, why aren't you just not showing up and calling sick?
Yeah.
I don't recall him ever missing work at all.
Wow.
With the exception of us going on vacation. It was that pride of working. It was a pride of being there on time. Sometimes my dad would drink probably more than he should, but he was there.
That's
at 8 in the morning.
Also something Latinos do.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's the work ethic that I was raised on.
Uh-huh.
And then my mom, she didn't work until I got into high school.
Was that your mom not working? Was that something that your father wanted?
Oh yeah. Well, my dad was, machista. I mean, he had a little machismo of, I'm providing for the family, which he did. My dad gave us everything we needed. We never went out without food. Now, obviously, he didn't buy us exactly what we wanted. I mean, I remember the first time I ever got my Reebok shoes back in the 5th, 6th grade that were like $60, and he was like, that's half his week of his paycheck.
Yeah.
And so I think that through him and my mom, she finally, when she started working, she started cleaning houses, but she was cleaning the house of Mr. and Mrs. Cassidy Jones, Claudette Jones, for many years at their home. So she never had a regular job. It was just at Miss Cassidy Jones' home. And so she started working. But that was a huge thing because to let my dad let her work. He never let her drive. My mom still doesn't know how to drive.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's something that the older school Mexican guys is, I'm the provider of the house. I'm working. There's no need for you to work. Your job is at home. Provide the food, clean the house, make sure the kids are taken care of. And that was it. I mean, it's very traditional, you know.
My dad was the same way, too. I taught my mom how to drive when I was 15.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to ask you, was that the same way in your household? Like your mom stayed home and dad went out to work?
Still to this day?
Yeah, I think it's general. I think it's changing with several generations. But I would say the majority of Latinos, it's still like
that's the way it was, yeah.
You know, and it's not, and it's just not, I think, it's just a prideful that, you know, much like I come to the United States, I leave Mexico to provide for you. So I'm going to provide for you no matter, you know, we're not going to let you work. There's no need for you to work.
Are they both still around, both of your parents?
My mom is still around. I just saw her last night. My father passed away in 2012.
What was his name?
Jose Ignacio Sanchez. I mean, the same. So I'm the junior. He's the senior.
His passing, was it something that was expected or was it unexpected?
It was expected. He, like a lot of Latinos, diabetic, drank a lot, didn't exercise, didn't really eat a lot, didn't follow the doctors and orders. So, yeah, we knew early on, well, not early on, well, a couple of years before he died, the doctor pretty much, because I was in there with him, you know, translate and make sure he understood everything. you better start drinking or you ain't going to last 5 years.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And he didn't last 5 years.
Did you say his name was Ignacio?
Yeah, Jose Ignacio. Just like me.
Jose
Yeah,
Ignacio.
Jose, yeah.
Okay. If he was here with us today, what would you say to him about his impact on your life?
Oh, he had a huge impact. I mean, he...
outside of your work ethic, I can see how the work ethic was
Right.
big, but what other impact has your dad been for you?
well, apart from the work ethic, I think he's a funny guy. I think he had a lot of humor, sometimes people say, from my dad. My mom's more on the serious side. She can come across cold-hearted, more serious. She doesn't really talk to people.
Okay.
And my dad's a type, they go grocery store at Super One, and he's met 5 new friends by the time they're done shopping, and,
Yeah.
and I kind of have the same thing. You put me in a room, I'll meet somebody, and next thing you know, we're exchanging numbers, and just we're easy go to. I think I get a lot from my dad being humble. My dad was very simple. I mean, my mom would force him to buy new clothes, would force him to, fix his hair and ready.
Yeah.
And he's just very basic. He just wanted simple things in life. And so I think, even though, I've been successful as a lawyer and I can, buy a lot of stuff that I want, there's still times that I don't go as much as I could, I guess you can say. And I think a lot of that's from my father. I think from both of them I've learned just a relationship. Like I said, I've never been married, and hopefully one day I am. Just how they work together, and I never saw my dad disrespect my mom, at least not in front of us that I recall.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he did drink a lot and get intoxicated, he wasn't the violent type. He would just cry. He always cried. We'd watch a movie together as family. He's the one that was bawling his eyes out. My mom's the one was like, "What's this chillon? Why are you crying so much?" So she's the one that was kind of like more in that aspect, and we would just laugh and laugh,
Yeah.
But
That's
he just, I think I got that from my dad. Some of the emotion. I think I'm more emotional than my mom, but I'm not to the degree of my dad. So I think maybe I got a good mix of both of them. But I think the thing I got from my dad too and my mom is just the immigrant life of being poor, of having to work hard to get what you got, and being thankful for the position. I'll give you a great story. This is one of my favorite stories I like to tell about my mom. So after my first year at Harvard, I had the summer off pretty much. I still had my office, law firm, but I had somebody else running it. So I decided to take 30 days off and go to Europe and take my mom to Europe because my sister was living there. And we went through Portugal, we went to Italy, Croatia, Spain, and for 30 days just traveled. Well, she always wanted to go to Rome. So we made a trip to Rome, and I made sure that the Pope was giving Mass on a Sunday that we were going to be there. Because they published the times that he's going to be there, and so we go on that date. So it's 250,000 people in the Basilica in Rome. And, we've been walking and traveling throughout the week. And I'm in the back. I'm taking my pictures with my camera, recording some of the Mass, about 2 or 3 hour Mass. And when I look to the left, and my mother's just hunched over asleep. So I take my camera and I'm taking pictures of her, like she's like here asleep.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, kind of like when you go to church and fall asleep. In the back row.
Yeah.
Well, she's falling asleep. Well, she is asleep, I'm thinking. So I'm just taking. So I kind of nudge her and say, "Hey, Mami, levántate, wake up. What are you doing? You can't be sleeping in church."
Yeah.
She just puts her head up and looks at me, and I'm looking down. And it seemed like, I don't think she was asleep, she was kind of observing the whole...
Soaking it all in.
Soaking it all in that she's in Rome with the Pope. And so she looks up at me and she goes, "Mijo, muchas gracias que me trajiste aquí a Roma. Thank you for bringing me here to Rome." That was what she said. So my eyes start, tearing up. And I said, "No, thank you and Daddy for bringing me to the U.S., for giving me this opportunity that one day I could do something with my life and bring it to Rome." She goes, "Yeah, when I was little in Mexico, I would see planes fly around. I never even thought that I would even get on a plane, much less come and see the Pope with a Mass in Rome." And so I said, "No, like I said, thank you for what y'all done, the opportunity to go to Harvard, the opportunity to have my own law firm, all this stuff because y'all made the decision to bring us to the United States. And we took advantage of it, of this opportunity. No, so thank you. So we both crying. And, you know, it was emotional. And it's probably one of my favorite moments with my mother.
Yeah.
But it encompassed a lot of my life. You know, in that one moment, her first vote was for Obama.
Yeah.
So it would have been
So
Obama's
around
first
there.
term,
Okay.
which she became. And now, ever since, we go vote together.
Yeah.
That's our time. We go vote whatever the election is, we go vote together.
That's cool.
As well. So I think that's also, you know, of her, you know, making a difference and taking advantage of being a citizen and voting. I think that's what we as immigrants can do probably the best, is give back to our parents that they sacrificed everything. And I think that's the best way we can, as immigrants, repay them when you come out. And I'm not saying you have to go to Harvard or go to college, but you come out as a great person, as a good human that's productive. And so I think, you know, as immigrants, when my parents, you know, I think my dad, when he passed away, before he died, he knew I was going to Harvard because I had already gotten in, but he died before I was able to go. So just the fact that he knew, and he knew how happy it made me when I would talk about it, I think that's what made him happy.
Did either of them, excuse me, did either of them ever tell you how proud they were of you?
Oh, yeah, all the time. My dad more so than my mom.
Yeah.
Like I said, my dad's more emotional. He was always, you know, he would always come home, get his 6-pack, sit out on the front porch, and just sit there.
Did he listen to Vicente Fernandez?
Oh, yeah, he would listen to Vicente. He listened to music, but he would just sit there and just by himself. I think he enjoyed just working 8 to 5, getting off, going home and being with the family. He didn't have the entrepreneurship mind like I do, or other Latinos or my uncles that have started their own companies. He was happy. I'm working 40 hours a week, and I'm providing for my family, and I'm happy. I mean, it's very simple.
Do you think he ever missed his country?
Yeah. I mean, after we got our green card and we were able to go back, I mean, those 2 weeks of us being in Mexico he was very happy. Number one, he wasn't working. Number two, he was seeing his uncles, his cousin, his parents. Because at that time, we would only see our family every year or two when we'd go back. Yeah, they didn't come over here. So I think he enjoyed that time period of being down there.
That's cool.
You know.
What was the catalytic moment where you said, I want to do immigration law? Do you do anything other than immigration law?
So most of the money I make is from not immigration law, personal injury and accidents. Right. I do a lot of personal injury, you know, car wrecks. I would say probably, you know, super majority of my people that I represent are immigrants because everybody in my office is bilingual. So, you know, just naturally, I guess they feel more comfortable. They understand, as an immigrant myself, the process, and as well as comfortable when the communication's able to it. So, but I also represent businesses. Several businesses, I help them incorporate their business, do bylaws, do contracts when they get sued or they have to sue somebody. I do a lot of criminal. I enjoy criminal. You're in the courtroom, you're arguing, you're fighting. And sometimes immigration crosses with criminal, so it's easy for both of them to come in. But I've been doing this 23 years, and 24 years now. And so I've done it all, because when you're a sole proprietor, like here lawyers, you got to learn how to do a bit of everything. But I don't do family. I used to, but I don't.
You've kind of made it your slogan, like, as an immigrant.
Yeah. So several years ago, because my undergrad degree is in marketing, international business, at A&M, and then law school at Texas Tech. So when I started pumping in more money in marketing, I had to come up with a slogan. Like I said, the majority of my clients are immigrants. So me being an immigrant, I came up with a slogan, como inmigrante, yo entiendo. As an immigrant, I understand.
Right.
And I've had it for since probably 2008 or so, and people still recognize that.
Is that still your?
That's
your
still
slogan?
my logo.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has a lot of meaning because it relates to, because a lot of people that come to my office that don't know me and don't know my history, they assume that my parents had money. They assume that they were lawyers or business people, and that I was given all this. And when they recognize my story or understand my story or know my story, it all changes, because now I become I was in their position, they are now, and so they can easily relate, and we all do that. We assume certain people because of whatever. I have more immigration cases volume wise, but I make more money on personal injury.
Okay,
Gotcha.
That
makes sense. And then mixed in criminal and some businesses that I represent.
What do you get? What do you get out of doing immigration? What do you get personally?
So, well, if you go back, I think this will help understand it. So when I went to A&M, initially I was a finance major.
Okay.
I wanted to be stock market, financial advisor, show me the money. I was never around with Mexicans unless I went to Mexico to visit my family. Because like I said, we didn't go to South Longview. Yeah. But when I got to A&M, I started meeting all these Latinos from South Texas, from the Rio Grande Valley, from McAllen, Michigan, Houston.
You started seeing the culture.
I started seeing the culture.
Yes.
Now, I had listened to the music because my dad, my mom, she's cleaning the house, dancing to Los Temerarios, crying, and dancing cumbias, Selena, and todo eso.
Yeah.
So I already knew the music, but not being around people, apart from my immediate family. And at the house, I spoke Spanish to my parents, but siblings-wise, we all spoke English, right? And so anyhow, when I went to A&M, I was like, oh, there's other people that look like me. But you got to remember the ones from the Valley, they're the opposite.
Yeah.
They were 95% Latinos in the Valley. And now they're at A&M and it's super majority white, so it's the opposite for them. But to me, I felt fine. That's what I grew up in Spring Hill. The oddball was y'all coming on at A&M and me being around other Latinos.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, and I guess there was I wouldn't say an interest, but it was like something, I need to learn or be around more of these people. And I started getting more to my culture, my history, and I love history. And even they remember I go to the cafeteria and there's Mexican ladies working at A&M at the cafeteria and would chit chat. Oh, ¿cómo estás? Oh, bien. And eventually they knew who I was. And then at that time there were issues of the supervisor wouldn't let them speak Spanish at the cafeteria. So
they wouldn't let you speak
Spanish? They wouldn't let them.
Oh.
The workers speak Spanish among themselves in the cafeteria.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. And so I got involved with them. I took it upon to the president, who was, I became friends with through the political stuff. They're just working just among themselves. So eventually, so that was kind of my first little fight, you can say, of that. And then in 2005, I decided to go on my own. I had no knowledge of immigration, but I taught myself. And then I had a lot of other lawyers, immigration lawyers locally. And so with that, me doing immigration, and then in 2006 is when there was a lot of protests because they were trying to make, if you're here without documentation, they want to make that a felony, a criminal offense. Because you got to remember right now, people, and you see this on social media, being here without documentation is not a criminal offense.
Right.
It's a civil violation.
Okay.
It's not a criminal offense. So when you get in process to get deported, because immigration catches you for whatever reason, they put you in immigration proceedings to deport you in immigration court. But immigration court is a civil administrative process. And why? Because you're not entitled to a lawyer paid by the government. Otherwise, it becomes a criminal process. Okay. So when people today say they're all criminals because they're here illegally, they're incorrect.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're violating civil law, but not criminal law. In 2006, when they were trying to make it a felony, I led a march in Tyler. We did a march here in Longview. Had 4,000 people in Tyler.
Wow.
The first time immigrants had ever gotten together.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was on a Monday. People didn't go to school. Teachers were upset because it's up to the parents whether they go to school or not. They're not my kids. Yeah. But it had a great time. Nobody was fighting. Nobody got injured. In Tyler, there's still YouTube. You can still see it on my page, the YouTube video of the newscast.
Interesting.
So that, I think after the protests and after the marches, it kind of put me at a different level of, he's really looking out for us. He's really going to, be there for us. And so I think that's kind of when my business started going and then growing. And then I started getting personal injury cases, people dying, car wrecks, injury on the jobs. And that's where you do better. And I've done it myself because I became a citizen in 2002. I did my own application. So like you, I've done it. I've gone to the interview. So I've been to the process. And so I think that helps me better adapt and understand them. And also I think they trust me more because I have been there.
Does it frustrate you when you hear rhetoric like we were talking about a second ago between the immigrants laws, immigration laws, and the confusion between civil and criminal? Does it frustrate you when you read that or where you see that and people are misconstruing those two?
Not so much now because I've been around it so long. But I think that's where I try and make sure people understand. You know, nowadays is everything that's thrown out there is not complete. It's not true.
Yeah.
But that's why we try and educate these people. I'm not saying that, you know, yeah, they're here without documentation, but there's no criminal offenses being conducted. You know.
I guess we're gonna gear up and get ready to tackle that subject. Honestly, don't really talk to anybody about politics because it's rarely a conversation and always an argument.
Correct.
So I just have chosen in my life, you know, if I can tell within like 30 seconds whether I'm going to continue a conversation with somebody about politics or not, because it's just, you know, okay, you're just going to come try to lay whatever your thoughts are, and then that's that. And you don't really want to know the truth.
Right.
And vice versa, because there's things that I don't know, right? And so, but I, as an individual, am okay saying I don't know.
Right.
I'm okay with that. I think a lot of people aren't okay with that. They're not okay with saying I don't know or I'm wrong or whatever the case may be. I don't like saying I'm wrong, but I have to sometimes.
But you hear it all the time, right?
Dude. But when I am, I am. You know, obviously you guys know about all things Longview and some of the things that have occurred. This is just locally. I mean, and imagine how it's happening nationally. I've been talking to some people here locally who are undocumented, and they're just fearful. I had conversations with people out of San Antonio who had family members picked up. They were crying and saying, you know, I had a family member who was picked up by ICE. So then it became real. It became real at that point. Just in my observations over this last week, my understanding is that they are coming after specific individuals. I was listening to some numbers as far as how many they picked up, but they were targeted, and if there were others that were picked up, they happened to be at those locations and they were picked up as a byproduct.
Correct.
What message would you give the Latin community? Into question one, is ICE just going to come take me because I'm undocumented?
Right.
What's your answer to that question?
I mean, I could spend hours on this topic. Yeah.
Do you have somewhere where people can go watch, you know?
Well, I have a lot of videos on my Facebook page on immigration. It's a different type of immigration. I just did a 2-hour live town hall on Sunday at the Longview Public Library. But we're answering a lot of the questions because it's a very big topic. We knew this summer when I, you know, tell the community and explain to the community, there's a good chance Trump's going to win.
Right.
And Trump, whether you like him or not, pretty much says what he wants or what he thinks in his head, no matter how extreme you think it really is. And most of what he says he's going to try and do. Right. Whether he succeeds or not legally, gets thrown out by the courthouse or whatever, but he's still going to attempt to do it. Right. So a lot of I've been trying to get the community, even before Trump, hey, this is coming, you better get prepared. What I think the difference is Trump has done a lot of fear factor in it. And, you know, studying at Harvard at the Kennedy School of Government, and that's what I studied, politics, Trump did a great job of when you have no policy, and I'm just telling you from my point of view. I mean, there's things that I do like about Trump that he did or can do or I said he wants to do. But when you have no policy, you have no experience, you have pretty much nothing to really run on. Politically, you create fear. That's what you learn in these books about politics. You create fear in that hopefully people, because people usually vote on fear.
Okay.
You know,
I'm taking notes for my all things Longview.
That's just that's just the way it is, right? That's how a long shot can win. Because you create fear, and Trump has done that even from his first term. And so he did. I mean, he hit it on the nail. I mean, creating fear in immigration. You know, creating fear on the eggs going up or the food economy, all that kind of stuff, which a lot of stuff the president can't control. Right. From my experience in education. That any president, including Trump or Biden or Obama, you can't control immigration, just the president. It's such a huge monster. It's not a black and white answer. That's why we have the issue that we have. And when people always ask me about this immigration issue, and people don't think about this, but they need to think very simple. To me, it's a very simple issue. You have supply and you have demand. Economics 101.
With anything.
With anything, yeah. You have American companies that want to hire cheap and pay cheap, and you have American individuals, citizens, that want to buy cheap and want cheap services.
Right.
That's the demand. That's what they want.
Right.
Okay?
I can agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just simple, regardless of race, sex, or
Yeah.
whatever. As
Take all that out.
As they take that out, it's a basic fundamental. We want cheap, and we want it now, and we want it to do it, cheapest, easiest, fastest way.
Yeah.
That's just human nature. So here's the Americans that have this demand.
Right.
So you have Mexicans, Guatemalans, South Americans willing, they need a job, they need money, because in other countries they can't live like they want to live, I guess,
Right.
or some even survive.
Yeah.
So they see this supply. Hey, we need this. All you do is get over this river. So of course they're gonna come over here
Right.
to supply the demand that is needed here.
So the outcome is worth the cost, though, like to get over that river.
Well, it depends. Everybody's case is different.
Right.
But the concept is you have supply and demand. You have Americans, businesses, and citizens of America that want cheap, easy, fast products, right? And you have Mexicans and Latinos that are willing to give that. So that's fine. I mean, that's what American is born, supply and demand. That's a
Right.
very basic American thing. If the Americans, and I challenge you and other Americans, including myself, because I'm a citizen now, Luis too, finally, can't get deported.
How long have you known Luis?
Probably 15 years or so.
Probably longer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Before you went to Harvard.
Really?
Yeah, I was one of his first wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he helped me with my,
In the
he
divorce.
helped me get my papers.
Yeah, and help him get his papers.
Okay.
But so
But
it's a simple.
Back to the paper. Sorry, I just want to. Man, I guarantee you, most Americans could not pass the U.S. citizenship test.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
John barely passed it, probably.
Dude, real quick, when I went to go take, when I went, I had my bachelor's, I went in there, and the guy's like, dude, I'm not even gonna, let's just talk. Like, there's no reason for me to ask you these dumb questions. So we just sat there and talked. He didn't even ask me the questions.
He didn't follow protocol. See.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I should say that out loud.
What was his
But-
name, John?
Say whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll do an immigration FOIA request to get the record to see who the officer was. But
Oh,
going
man.
back to this is supply and demand, and John, that's what people you don't hear this in discussion right now.
No.
But you were saying, I'll challenge you. I'll challenge
Yeah.
anybody.
So
What
I
were you gonna
challenge Americans or anybody here in the U.S. living in the U.S.
say? Uh-huh.
And if you are willing to pay more money for somebody to clean your house, wash your car, go to the restaurants, buy jeans that are going to be, probably 30, 40% more expensive than you buy them now, instead of coming in from China, instead of coming in from other countries, if you're willing to pay more to somebody to build your house or whatever it is, the laborer that these immigrants are doing, are you willing to do that?
Yeah.
Right.
And they're not, because it's human nature to want cheap and easy. So all this buy America sounds great, but are Americans willing to pay for that?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the buy local, campaigns that we hear all the time here in Longview. Buy local, businesses. It sounds good, but what are people?
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive.
Right.
That hurts my wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So am I willing to spend another, $3 to $4 grand a year of my income
Yeah.
to make sure I pretty much shop locally or help Americans?
Yeah.
Or am I going to keep ordering from Amazon or
Yeah.
Tumi or whatever that Chinese or whatever it is that online that a lot of people hunt for them? But it's human nature. Humans are born being greedy.
Right.
What's the best for me, right? And that's what causes this immigration. As an employer, these construction companies, these roofing companies, these that use these laborers, why aren't they hiring Americans?
Right.
Well, because then Americans are like, well, you got to pay me $30 an hour. I'm not going to be out in the hot sun
Yeah.
and pay me $15.
Yeah.
Well, why aren't you paying them $30 an hour? Why?
Yeah.
Because that's going to hurt your pocket.
Right.
That's going to hurt your profit, right? Well, in order for the owner to make a profit, now he's going to charge the homeowner that he's going to build the house an increase to build that house. So everything's going to go up. But you're hiring Americans. Why aren't you doing that? Again, you're being greedy, and that's what's best for your self-interest. So now what we're seeing is to me is because of the supply and demand, what happens when people create chaos like he is? You start blaming others.
Yeah.
You start blaming the victims,
Right.
right? And that's the way I look at it is Americans are blaming immigrants for their decisions, for their choice, because they don't want to spend extra money,
Right.
Yep.
right? Until that changes, which it won't because it's human nature, then you're blaming them. It's kind of blaming the wife or the wife that gets beat by the husband,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's the way Americans look at it.
Yeah.
And so until that gets resolved, immigration will always be an issue.
Right.
I don't care how much troops Trump takes to the border. I don't care how many troops Mexico sends to the border or Canada. As long as that demand is there, people are going to find a way to come in until that changes. Or, I mean, you're talking about these, is ICE going to come and get me?
Yeah.
I want to see when ICE is going to go after the employers.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Have we seen any videos where they go after the employers?
That's big.
Yeah.
Why not? Because those employers are the ones giving money to the parties,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to the lobbyists. And Trump's not going to go after the employers because those are people that are donating money to him. You know, so that goes against their self-interest. So I guarantee you, if tomorrow, John, Trump said, starting next week, if you're an employer and we're going to do raids and we're going to investigate, we're going to do audits. And if we catch you, it's a mandatory 10 years prison for the CEO of the company. Minimum, no probation, nothing. 10-year minimum that you're hiring undocumented immigrants. What would happen?
Yeah.
What would happen? These employers, well, fuck. I'm not gonna risk 10 years of my time to go. I'm gonna do e-verify. I'm gonna double check the social security number. I'm gonna double check everything.
They might even. So when I think about this stuff, because I'm always, I try to look at it globally, or like scoot back and look at the whole thing. Businesses that are hiring this cheaper labor might say, you know what, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find a different business because this ain't worth it.
Right.
Because now I got Big Brother on my back.
And then what happens when Big Brother gets on your back and there's no more demand?
Right.
Well, then these Americans are gonna be coming here when there's no jobs.
Yeah.
But guess what goes up in the U.S.?
The prices go up.
Prices go up.
Everything goes up.
And so I always think we can't really understand the outcome until we live it. Like, we're not gonna really understand it until we live it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because people don't realize it's too abstract for them
Yes.
until they see the significance.
Yes.
You know.
And people say it. Like people
Oh, yeah.
people can say it all day long. Like, this is what's gonna happen, this is what's gonna happen. And then people will battle that and create a chaotic view of things. But in reality, like many things in life, until we actually go through it, we won't know. We won't know what it is.
Right.
And
And so until they accept that you can't have it both ways.
exactly.
Can't.
If you want cheap labor, cheap prices, well, there has to be some immigration issues with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're going to have an inflow of people coming here to provide those services. And that's just the way it is. And it's a numbers game.
Yes.
If you have 10 million immigrants coming, of course there's going to be some bad ones in there.
Yes.
Like there is bad Americans.
Yeah.
You know?
Everything, yeah.
And so are we willing to accept the bad apples of the immigrants,
Right.
but knowing that we're getting all these cheap stuff?
Yes.
And until we don't, then there's no solution. What Trump is doing is not resolving the issue or the problem. It's just putting a Band-Aid on it, a temporary Band-Aid on it as well. And that's not going to cure this problem. That's why it's never been resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and even putting them on the wall, 65% of the immigrants that are here without permission entered with a visa.
Right.
So they enter in a plane or by road, and the immigration let them in legally.
And they just don't.
So putting a wall does not cure the problem. But
Yeah.
65% of people here came with visa. So that's not a fix. Put in all those border patrol. And then that's not even, John, again. So that was the supply and demand on immigrant labor.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the drugs.
Yeah.
Again, and this is just me. I mean, think the way you want to think. Americans have a demand for drugs.
Yeah.
Meth,
It's an-
marijuana, cocaine, whatever, right?
An insatiable.
Insatiable, more than any other country in the world, right?
Oh man.
Okay, so there's a demand. Well, when somebody on the outside sees this demand to make money, what do? They provide those products.
Yeah.
What does Apple do? They provide products that people want They're a technology for cells to communicate.
Yeah.
And they're expensive.
Yeah.
But there's this demand for it, right? So they provide it. We can't get mad at Apple because our kids are on the phone all the time. That's not Apple's fault.
Yeah, I agree.
Apple's providing the product.
You bought them the phone.
Exactly. And then you bought them
And
the phone.
I see it as if they're on the phone all day long, Apple's done their job. As a CEO of Apple, I'm doing what I'm supposed to
and
be
that's what
doing.
they want. So I don't see why you have to blame the cartel.
Yeah.
The cartel and nauticals are providing a product that Americans want,
Yeah.
just like any other business sells their product. Now, it's just an illegal product, but it's still a product.
Yes.
So why are we just going to blame the cartel? Why are we going to blame Mexico or Colombia for that problem? They're just giving you something Americans want.
Right.
Again, goes back to, and why isn't Trump not going to give more money to help people that have drug addictions? Right. Why are they putting money for the states to provide all these centers to help them so they don't get on drugs in the first place? Or how do you get them off drugs? We don't hear that.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be part of the solution as well.
Yeah.
And so until they stop using drugs, or again, we do a mandatory 10-year prison, your first offense for drugs.
Right.
No probation, no rehab, nothing.
And across the board, man.
Across the board.
Because here's the deal, like, and I don't want to get into that part of it because, you know, my study in criminal justice is I, being a Mexican or an African American, gets caught with the same exact drug that an American does or Caucasian, two very completely different outcomes
Correct. Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
But why don't they do it?
Exactly. Why not? And I guarantee you, I mean, we all have friends that know, we know that probably use some stuff they shouldn't be using.
Yeah.
What if all suddenly they did that? I guarantee you, most of them are going to say, well,
It's not worth it.
yeah, you're going to offer me this little white stuff. I don't think I'm going to take it this time, you know, or I'm not going to do it because 10 years is a lot of years.
Yeah.
I think
You know?
the hypocrisy too that goes behind all this stuff. I can get on social media and I see business owners and close friends of mine that are like, yeah, deport, send these people back. And I can pull up to their job site that next morning and 99% of the people that have working for them
Yes.
are illegal immigrants.
Yes.
Right.
But they're on all things Longview,
Yeah.
Yeah.
talking
Yeah,
crap
send
about the
them back.
immigrants,
Yeah.
send them back, you know, but they love Maria that cleans my house, that raised my kids, you know.
Dude, it goes back to what you were saying earlier though. And you know, in a perfect world, you send them all back. Now Maria, I don't want to like. Now a Caucasian lady or an American has to take that job, and all of a sudden, what Maria was doing for $12 an hour, now you got to pay $30 an hour to this individual, and people don't want to do that.
Exactly. Again, goes back to it's
But
fundamental.
in order to really understand that it's not. It is a culture. It has been a culture since the inception of the United States, since the border was even there. It is a culture, and you're asking Americans to change it. What it is, you know, what part of America is. I think.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, very, very seldom, unless you go to like a soul food restaurant or a mom and pop's, you know, kitchen. You go eat Italian, there's or Hispanic people cooking it for you. They probably don't even eat it. You go eat Chinese food, who's in the kitchen? There's not a Chinese person working. I mean, very seldom would you see one. You know, so I think along the hypocrisy that goes with it, you know, yeah, you like Jose said, you get on Facebook and you say all these things and you get all these likes, but again, I guarantee you, I'll show up to the job site tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're not practicing what we.
Right. And John, something that's very important that I always tell and people aren't aware of this. And I think it goes back to what I'm talking about, supply and demand. If you look statistically at the employment workforce, potential workforce in the U.S., okay, we have about 350 million people in the U.S., right? Well, obviously not all of them can work. A lot of them are kids. Out of the percentage that can actually work, and the people that are working in the U.S. workforce, 5% don't have documentation. 5.
Are they reflected in that number?
Yeah. So only 5% of the people actually working, 5% are undocumented. So explain to me how these 5% are taking away your jobs.
Yeah.
Explain to me how they're causing all this chaos. Explain to me how those 5% are all criminals in taking up all the emergency rooms. Which is not true. It's statistically not possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So why are we spending trillions of dollars so we don't get the 5% to stay here?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make like it'd be like if a school district, which they all have budgets, and there's 5% of the kids have some kind of medical condition that they're going to spend 20% of their budget just for those 5 kids.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? You probably find an alternative way. How can we help those kids? But there's probably a different way we can do it. Again, they're making it bigger than it really is.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't hear about that.
I think one thing that I've encountered personally is like, you know, the hypocrisy about this issue in general. Like, people are like, I'm not racist. I'm not, you know, there's nothing racial about it. You know, send them all back. Send them all back. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter. Even if they are documented, I always say, let's send them all back. And then they realize, you know, because a lot of people don't know that I was born in Mexico. Like, you know, I was born in Mexico, right? Like, I'm an immigrant.
Well, not you, John. Not you. You're American now.
yeah.
You did it the legal way, you know?
Yeah, that's
we're not talking about you.
one of my
So,
biggest-
you're not a criminal, you know?
Yeah.
One of my biggest pet peeves or frustrations is when I get, and I didn't have Facebook for so long, and I wish I would have never got back.
You were
to
on
that.
jail. Were you
That-
on Facebook jail?
that addiction, because it's an
Oh.
addiction.
Yeah.
Do it the right way.
Yeah.
But if they did it the right way, but then when you ask someone, okay, tell me what do it the right way means, they
They don't
can't
know.
tell you. But it sounds good.
Yeah.
I did it the right way. Dude, we came across the river.
That's
It's
the right
a culture,
way.
dude. It's a culture. You can't.
But my right way is different than his right way,
Right.
Yeah.
than his right way, than his right. There's no blanket that's just going to.
Yeah, because my clients, John. So we'll get your typical American that's married, you know, let's say a Caucasian lady marries a Mexican guy that works in construction. That's my typical case.
Right.
Well, I want to help Juan get legal. Okay. Or I'm a U.S. citizen. He should be able to legal. He's my husband.
Right.
Okay, well, let me ask Juan about his history. Well, if he's got criminal issues, he's got immigration violations, he's probably not going to be able to get legal, even if he's married to you.
Right.
So it's not just marry me and you get your green card. No, there's a lot of things you have to look at, whether or not they even qualify to get legal. And then if he does, you're looking at, you know, several years of process and several thousands of dollars.
All these
To do
fairy
it.
tales. All these fairy tales.
Yeah.
Of what people think
Yeah.
it.
It's not just marry. And then employers, I get employers, I get them all the time. Jose and Jesus have been working with me for 15 years. Great kids. I mean, great people. They're married. Their kids go to my school with my kids. They play on the same soccer team. I want to help them get legal. I'm an employer. I think I want to be able to get them legal so they can travel and they can get their driver's license and social security number, and I can put them driving trucks or my company can grow because I trust them and they're my great best employees. Without them, I can't have my job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, sir, the way the law is written right now, if you're here without documentation, no matter if you haven't, they can't petition for you
Right.
because they've already broken the civil law of being here without documentation. And there's no process until there's a reform, which hasn't happened since '86, for you to do that. Because if you could, well, you wouldn't be seeing me because I would have retired 5 years ago from all the money I would have made from the employer. You know? So it's not that easy. So a lot of people are getting educated when they come to me because they assume just because I have a business and I can help Jose and Jesus and he's never been in trouble that he can get his green card.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yeah.
If it was that easy, again, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Right.
But again, John, 5%. That's what's still, you know, just frustrating that people don't understand that.
Yeah.
And they're making it a big deal. Even if it went to 10%, we're still going to be okay. We still have 90% of the people working there are citizens or residents. You know what I'm saying? So we can absorb more percentage of immigrants.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
No one's taken our jobs, so to speak. I like what you said, and I like what you said, Luis, about the supply and demand,
Louis.
and also
I have papers now. Lewis.
Lewis. And also the hypocrisy, because I'm from California originally, me and my wife, and we lived out in California for about 13 years. So we've seen, and we have really close friends and you know, family that have parents and grandparents that came in illegally. I think what you said was so important. It's the supply and demand, because if people really wanted what they were asking for, they don't realize the outcome of that. Like you're saying on Facebook and out loud, deport. Well, if we actually did that, then your business would go under because you don't have any more employees, right? And from what I've seen, a lot of these jobs that America demands and we want to pay less for, well, Americans are, even if you offered them $30 an hour, they're still not going to do that.
Oh, yeah.
They're still not going to go do these jobs. So I don't think people think about what they're saying. It's kind of like clickbait. They just want to say what's popular.
Yeah. I was talking to I'm in construction, and I was talking to one of my reps about concrete. The price of concrete right now is so expensive. A yard, $140 some a yard, right? And he was like, "Man, under this new administration, it's gonna drop down to 85 or 90 a yard." I'm like, "Yeah, but who's gonna pour it?"
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Valid point. He was like, "Man," he was like, "Dang, that's right. I mean, who is gonna pour it?" No, we just need to keep it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to drop.
You can't even get Americans to work at McDonald's after COVID, So the idea that we're going to go out there and do some of these hard jobs that are being filled by a lot of these immigrants, it's ludicrous and it's laughable. Especially right now in these day and age, it's like just people are just talking, man. And a lot of things that they're saying, they have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. I don't even know what I'm talking about half the time.
I know what I'm talking about.
But you know what you're talking about,
yeah.
Right? Because you lived it, you've educated yourself, and you help others educate themselves. So that perspective, I think, is so important because there's a lot of nuance to it, like you said. I don't think people think about the supply and demand, like you said.
To me, that's fundamental. And the other thing, again, I'm a numbers person.
Yeah.
You own your own business, and only 5% of whatever the problem is, are you really going to spend a lot of your time and energy and budget on that 5%?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what people assume. It's like they're taking all the jobs like that.
Yeah.
And it's not the case, But they want to blame somebody.
Yeah.
You always have to blame somebody, and they don't want to take responsibility. Americans don't want to take responsibility. That we're greedy. Yep. We want cheap and we want fast, and that's what we're Americans. We deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing, John, is, as you know, I've traveled over 30 countries around the world. I love traveling, and I've learned more about the world. So I look at a lot of stuff now from the world point of view to see how America fits within that. And the other problem we have is Americans that are here, especially here in East Texas, they don't leave East Texas. They've never been outside of East Texas. They're, they think they hit the lottery by going to Florida to Destin every summer and taking pictures with white clothes on, like all the families have.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're cultured. We went and there were some, Mexican people there and some other people from other countries, and and so you start traveling. Do you understand how the world really works?
Yeah. You see the worldview of us.
Exactly. And I guarantee you, I mean, I have a lot of friends, especially from Harvard. Yeah. They just laughed at us. Yeah. We just had our 10-year reunion at Harvard. And they were laughing. Do you think Trump really is going to win? I mean, would y'all really vote for Trump? Yeah. Come on, Yeah. Why are you even a candidate? You know what I'm saying? And that's what they just laugh at us. How can you actually select him? Yeah. Because we're, we think we're the best.
Yeah.
We think that if you're not like us, then you're wrong. And I think we've always had that cocky attitude as an American, but now it's gotten more extreme because people aren't scared to say it.
Yeah.
Right.
And they got people in powers that want to demonstrate it, that want to show it.
Right.
Right? Because and see, that's part, again, goes back to supply demand.
Right.
China needs us because we buy all their products. But the moment that we don't buy their products, what's China going to do?
Yeah.
But they know Americans are always going to buy their products because they're the cheapest products.
Right.
And Trump's not going to change that. Because if Trump actually put a tariff, I mean, he's been dangling the carrot to the Mexico and Canada. We're going to put tariffs. He's not going to put no tariffs.
Yeah.
Because he knows that because if their tariffs were to happen and we stop trade with China, what I'm telling you, prices are going to go up.
Right.
And the moment you're spending double on jeans or double whatever, concrete or whatever, you can't do this. That's when you're going to be like, whoa, maybe this is not what we wanted.
Because right now we're already up here.
Yeah.
And when you said, oh, you were promising this, and it says, whoa, now we're here.
But here's the thing, John. The other thing too is that people don't realize that when you travel, you realize a lot of people blame Biden administration for the economy, right? And that's nature, who's ever in charge.
Somebody to blame.
Somebody to blame, right?
Yeah.
But you understand, America, COVID didn't hit us as hard as it hit other countries.
Yeah. Yes,
we
that's
were
correct.
stable if you look at the big scheme of things, right?
Texas didn't care. Texas
Oh
was
yeah,
still Texas.
everything we still had. I don't remember people suffered in COVID as a whole. Now there were some people that obviously did.
Yeah.
But compared to other countries, to my family in Mexico, to my friends in Colombia, because the dollar goes up, affects their economy. They suffered a lot because there are a lot of their countries shut down. We didn't shut down as a whole,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and so of course the economy is going to go bad from us. But our very bad day is other countries' good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And until you travel and realize that and see that and meet people from other countries and they explain to you, all you know is that I was used to paying $2.50 for eggs and now I got to pay $5. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
We need a new president.
Yeah.
You know? And again, it's ignorance, uneducated, believing what you see on social media, not really doing your homework and not having living through it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's going to continue. And it's not going to change, no matter what Trump does. You know, until people have to, you know, resolve it
And we have to live through it.
and live
We have
through
to
it.
live
My
through it.
thing on drugs is like we're going after El Chapo. You know, he's locked up in maximum security. We're going after, you know, the Pablo Escobars and the Popeyes and Mayo Zambaras. Like, who is the American Pablo Escobar? Who is the El Chapo that is here in the United States?
Yeah.
Like, we're going, you know, obviously to other countries to get their drug lords. Who is our drug lord here in America?
Because they're selling to somebody.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Who is
Yeah.
who is the America's Chapo?
Yeah.
We don't know. Who is America's Pablo Escobar?
Yeah, somebody's got to be in New York City
Yeah.
in charge of the drug flow there. That's an American.
Yeah.
In Miami, LA, and all these big cities, they're there, but you don't hear about them.
Yep.
You don't hear. Today we arrested the drug kingpin in New York City, John Smith, for helping the Mexican cartel bring in drugs to New York City. We don't hear that.
The CEO of
Right.
you know, XYZ, because that's probably who it is. Someone with a lot of influence and a lot of money.
Yeah, and a lot of them are using it. I mean, again, it goes back to the, you know, the consumption.
You were talking about supply and demand. If you were to just say if all drugs stopped, you would have an entire nation going. You know who's using because they'd go into like
Yeah.
you know the
It's true.
what do you call
Withdrawals.
it? I do-
Withdrawals.
Side,
Yeah.
side effects, the withdrawals, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh, yeah.
now we
You're
know.
one
You
of
know,
those.
Well, a lot of times you can tell they aren't anyway, you know, by the way they act, you know.
and so you cut it off. Let's say it's from Mexico. You know, all it's going to do is displace it to somewhere else. Jean Pierre out of France is going to say, "Hey, there's my opening."
Yeah.
Time
Well,
to
no,
go.
they already do it around the world, John.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember, drugs go around the world.
That's what I'm saying.
Mexico,
Like you can cut Mexico.
the
out.
cartel in Mexico and Colombia lords, I mean, they ship around Europe. I mean, they ship to Japan. I mean,
No, but I'm saying like if you cut supply to the U.S. because the demand will always be there.
oh, yeah.
That person who is using it, they're gonna turn around and they're gonna look at where.
Oh, yeah,
can I
they're
get
gonna
it?
go somewhere
And
else
some
to get
guy in France is gonna say, "Here's my time to shine."
Exactly, yeah.
And I'm gonna funnel it from here, and all it's gonna do is Mexico's gonna go over here to Jean Pierre,
Right.
and send it through France, whatever the case may be.
Well,
Just-
John, I have a friend of mine. She went to Harvard and she's from India, but she lives in Singapore. And she was at the reunion, and I've never been to Singapore. It's on my list to go, and she lives there. And she's like, whenever you want to come, you know, you can stay at our place and everything. And I said, well, all my friends have gone to Singapore to say it's like one of the prettiest places in the world. Very clean, no trash. The government's very strict. And I said, well, how are the drugs there? Just asking her. Oh, there's no drugs in Singapore. What do you mean there's no drugs in Singapore? There's drugs everywhere. No, there's no drugs in Singapore. You never hear about people getting arrested? Because if you get arrested, you're going to prison. There's no probation. There's nothing. You're going to prison for a long time.
Yeah.
Even for a small amount. So
Is it-
people
is it
know not to use drugs in Singapore.
yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean they don't go to Dubai or go somewhere else and use it. But in Singapore, they don't use it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so until we do something about the punishments on the drugs or take it seriously, then we're not going to change it. You know, there's politicians that use drugs, that their kids use drugs or whatever. So of course they don't want to change it.
Talking about the supply and demand of drugs and you mentioned like CEOs and the different types of people taking drugs. I remember when I was in college, I had a friend that sold, you know, various types of drugs back in the day. And it always surprised me, like his clientele, because it wasn't who you think of being someone who would be buying drugs. It was like guys in suits, right? You know, and it tripped me out. It was a real culture shock because I'm coming straight from Louisiana. So if you're buying drugs, then you're supposed to look a certain way. But this was guys in ties and suits, and it just opened my eye. Like anyone could be buying and selling drugs. It's not just really one type of person, right? Guys in Mercedes, real successful people were knocking on
they're
this
the ones that have the money to buy a lot of drugs, you know?
Knocking on this college kid's door at like 2 a.m. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It's a business worth getting into if you don't value your freedom, if you don't value your life, if you don't value a lot of the things that normal people value. It's a lucrative business.
When I sold drugs, it was the rich white kids
Yeah.
that would pay. You put a price on it, and they'll pay it.
Yeah.
But again, you know, there's an end to that. There's a retirement to that.
Yeah.
And you know, you just getting into it, you got to be willing to pay that price.
Yeah.
But it's just a business model. That's part of the business.
And a lot of
model.
times you can't get out.
Exactly. Once
You either die or you go to prison, or you're lucky you get out.
But I agree. The only way to stop it is to, you know, make the consequence to where you don't think twice about doing it or selling it.
Yeah.
And then the
as a user, not only the supplier, but as a user.
As a
like-
user, yeah.
Right. Here's what we do: we put all the drugs on Mars, and all the crackheads will build a spaceship that'll get us there. And we tell them, okay, there's unlimited supply of drugs on Mars. We'll have apples and bananas and aluminum foil and LED lights. We'll have a spaceship, and
It'll get there.
They'll
We'll get
find
there.
a way.
We'll get there.
yeah.
Yeah, but again, the other side of it too, and I've had these discussions on the supply and demand, and obviously with drugs, at Harvard from a policy point of view. You got to look at it. If you start a mandatory 10 years first offense for cocaine or marijuana, or whatever the drug is, no probation, no second chance. Of course, people are going to think twice before they do it. But there's still going to be people that are going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? But it's going to be hard to pass a law because there's still a segment of America that are going to say that's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
That's too harsh. Right? That's too much punishment.
You know what's
And,
weird?
and, there's going to be a segment of the community, even Latinos, African Americans, they're more about social justice, saying, well, we can't do that because, you know, that's going to impact our people more.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't want to do that. Now we're going even more in jail. Because you got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, our jails are already, our prisons are already full everywhere. Right? So now you do something like this,
Yeah. That's very
10 years, well, you government better be ready for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't think we are. So that's why I don't think in a real world you would want it like that. But from a practical point, I don't think you can get
don't. Yeah.
legislation passed that people are going to agree to that.
Right.
You know, maybe a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Even then, I mean, any punishment people, there's a segment of the community that doesn't want to punish, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's become drugs that have become a norm. You go after the doctor, you hear doctors that get popped for supplying more, getting people hooked on drugs. And you have the pharmacy that make money off that. So of course there's incentive to get them all hooked on stuff. So it's not just an easy solution, but I was just bringing up, you know, simple supply and demand concepts, you know.
And it goes, you know, people traveling from the South it's been a culture. It's just part of the way it is. So is substance use in the U.S. It's just part of the culture. I would hate to say that it's not, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you could go anywhere in the U.S. Anywhere. I could go to the farmland USA. I could find the same drugs that I could find in New York City.
Yep.
I could find the same drugs that I find in Los Angeles that I could find in Little Town, Utah. Right? It's just a matter. It's kind of the underbelly of this country, and it could be the underbelly of many countries. But this is the country I live in, so that's why I'm saying it's the U.S.
Right. I just got back from Colombia. I went for New Year's in Colombia.
This last year, right?
Yeah, this past year, and I went to, and I've been to Colombia before. One of my favorite countries.
Isn't that
Great country.
Juan Valdez?
Yeah, the coffee. Yeah,
Coffee guy.
Well, I went to go visit my friend Juan Pablo.
Yeah.
He went to Harvard with me as well, and I went to his hometown, which is Bucaramanga.
Yeah.
It's northeast, 400,000 or so thousand people, and I had already met his mom and his brother, but I met his high school friends, and he goes, Jose, tomorrow we're gonna have lunch at the country club. I'm like, okay, cool. John, that country club is as nice as Pinecrest, as the country clubs we have here, if not better.
Okay.
And there were pretty people everywhere with their kids swimming, beautiful golf course, people playing golf. He plays tennis, so I watched him play tennis. I went to the gym, really nice gym. You wouldn't even think you're in Colombia.
Okay.
But Americans just have that vision
Yeah.
of Colombia. Nauticals, drugs,
Yeah.
whatever. They don't see the beautiful parts of these countries because, like you said, you see it through the vision of what you see.
Right.
And those Colombians, they don't want to come to the U.S. They have visas. They come and visit, go to Miami, go to New York, and then they go back. They don't want to live here in the United
Just like
States.
us going somewhere else to visit, they come here.
Exactly. They
To
come here. I mean, that's what, again, Americans that don't travel
Yeah.
don't see this. They think, all Mexico is bad. No, I go to Mexico 3 or 4 times a year. I have cousins of mine that have tourist visas that come and visit. They don't want to live here.
Yeah.
They're happy in their country. I was in Colombia, in Medellin, and there was an African-American guy from Atlanta, Georgia. I was at the gym, and he happened to meet me. So I was like, well, what are you doing here, And spoke perfect Spanish and everything.
Dang.
Really?
And I was like, hey, how are you? I'm Jose. I'm from Texas. He's like, yeah, I'm Juan, whatever his name was. And he goes, I'm from Atlanta. I said, well, what do you? He goes, oh, I've been here 4 years. I work remote, but I'm from Atlanta. But I get paid in dollars, the same I was making in Atlanta. But my rent's like $500 a month. I'm saving all my money, so eventually if I do go back, I can buy a house. But I'm saving up so much money living here. People are great. I can walk everywhere. Food's cheap. Beautiful women, social life, everything. Why would I go live in Atlanta? Why would I stay in Atlanta? I'm 3 hours away if I really want to, 4 hours ago, if I really want to fly over there, I go for the weekend and I come back.
Wow.
So I think you're going to see more of these people that can work remotely. Why are you going to stay here in America?
With all the fighting, all the divisiveness.
Exactly.
Because I'm pretty sure those countries are like just relaxed and
Yeah. I mean, you might have England, which is more, more like America than other countries, but I mean, Mexico, you don't have white people trying to do things or, there's not the racial tension that we have here in America,
Now, Colombia, that was El Chapo. That was El Chapo land, wasn't it?
No.
No.
Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar.
Correct, yeah.
Did you get to see anything about Pablo Escobar there?
Oh, yeah, I've been there numerous times. I've been to his tomb.
Okay.
It's very basic, very simple. I've been to the jail he created up on the mountains.
Okay.
I've been and gotten a tour of that. I've been to the house that he lived in. He has a museum. He had the first jet ski ever made. He bought it.
The first one ever made ever?
Ever
in the
made,
world?
ever. Yeah, they used it for the movie 007 back in the 70s.
Okay.
And he said, I want it. So they bought it. He bought it from them, from the studio when they used it.
Imagine having so much disposable income that you just buy stuff.
He had his helicopter there, his airplane, all that stuff is in the museum there in Medellin.
What is this about? Like, there's some animals that were reproducing there. What is this?
The hippos. Yeah,
I remember seeing a video where he had hippos.
Yeah, he had hippos, he had all this African wildlife, and they were able to reproduce and have more hippos. They're in Colombia.
And they're not. Are they native to Colombia?
No.
So,
No,
but
he
now
brought
they
them
are.
over.
But now
Yeah,
they're
he brought them over.
everywhere.
He exported them.
Yeah,
And then they
exported them
started
there.
breeding, and then when he died, they just
He just kept on going.
took off, so escaped, and now they're everywhere.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I got to meet one of his, they say, one of his allegedly his main sniper, Pai. I was in Medellin looking at the tombstone of Pablo with some friends, and I look over there, and there's a kind of like a minivan kind of thing, guy with a bunch of books in his back of the truck, just signing them, and people talking to him. So I went over there and figure out what it is, and it was Pai, who was his main sniper, killed over 500 people or so. But he went to prison after they shot Pablo and did some time in prison. But then he, it's been years, so he finally let out. He was just signing. He wrote a book while he was in prison, and I bought one. He signed it, and I haven't read it yet. but but he's out. A lot of those people that were involved with Pablo are out now.
Okay.
Or have died since, obviously, because it's been a long time ago. But Colombia's a great country. It's not what Americans. In fact, when I just went for New Year's from Medellin, I had met another couple in Brazil when I went to Rio last year, 2 years ago for New Year's. And there was a couple, he's Filipino, but grew up in Michigan and lives in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And his girlfriend is Afghanistan, but she was raised in Canada, I think. But she lives in Miami. And so I met him in Rio. They had never been to Colombia. So I said, hey, I'm going to Colombia for New Year's. Y'all should come. And they decided to come to Medellin for a week. Loved it. Enjoyed it. Not what they expected. Wants to go back. I mean, you're seeing a lot of Americans moving to Colombia.
Right.
Because I think we just rated one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest country to live in the world.
Yeah.
You know, so you're going to have a lot of Americans that, for whatever reason, they're looking to retire or they don't want to live here, especially if they work remotely. Why would you be in a place of all this chaos?
And expensive stuff.
Inexpensive stuff.
Yeah.
True. We were at a bar in Medellin and with my friends there from Vegas and Miami, and it was happening, music, everything, and, you know, Latin people dance all the time. It's not like Americans. A lot of times we just sit around and drink beer at the bar. No, people dance.
Yeah.
And we sit down at a table, and the guy's like, okay, look, y'all got to buy a bottle or a bucket of beer.
Before you even do that, like, you already have an idea of what it should be based on your knowledge, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
And so we're like, okay, we'll take a bucket, because we didn't want to drink a whole bottle. So we're like, we'll just take a bucket of beer. It's a Colombian beer, so they bring out the beer, and he goes, okay, it'll be 40,000 pesos, which is like $10 for 6 beers at a nice happening club in a nice part of Medellin.
What you would call here like a nice, like Dallas, one of the nice hip.
Yeah,
clubs. Yeah.
Every very exciting. People are dancing. You know, people want to go in there. And he goes, $10 for 6 beer, long necks, bottle. He goes, I got it, Jose. I'll cover it. You know? He goes, in Vegas, it's $10 per beer.
Yeah.
You know, in Miami, it's $10 per beer. Yeah. And that's a nice place. Just imagine some little hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole thing. I mean, spending all this money, you know, with all this stuff going on, why would you not think about going back to your native country or going to another country? Especially if there's more Americans. That's what's happening. All these little communities in other countries are expats, you know, coming up, and they're just catch a flight. They want to come to the U.S. for the weekend or a couple of days and just go back.
Cool. That's good, man. I'm glad that you've been able to be well traveled. I certainly hope that you find the love of your life. I think once you find that person, you'll be able.
Well, I want to go to Mexico City because Shakira just moved to Mexico City.
Yeah.
So.
Is that who you want to marry? Yeah.
Or her double.
I
mean, I went to Colombia looking for her, but there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I guess I didn't find the one. But no, I think God hopefully has a plan for me to let me suffer like all of y'all that are married and have kids, you know, go through all that. And that's part of life, you know. And so all my friends that are married say, don't do it.
Yeah.
You know. And,
I would. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm already getting myself into enough stress. I get enough.
But then I got the other ones that are like, no, Jose, you got to suffer like we do. You have to go through it too, you know? So,
oh, man.
You know,
I think one of the biggest things, if anything out of life, is when you have your child, that'll be the thing. Like, you're going to see yourself in that person.
Oh, definitely. And I want to be a father.
I
helped raise my nephews. He's in law school right now, Julio. You know, I pretty much raised him a lot. And so I can just imagine being your own blood, and your dad, he calls you daddy, and they look up to you, and you're in charge of this human being. I mean, I can imagine being the best time of my life, and so hopefully we'll get it soon.
So it's one of the things that I've started doing. I give the guests one question per person to ask me, and then I want to ask you a couple questions. We'll close out.
I can ask you any question I want.
Any question. It doesn't mean I'll answer it, but you can ask any question you like. Yeah.
This is a question not just for you.
Okay.
For anybody that wants to comment, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to comment on this question. What does a secure border look like?
A secure border?
Does that mean 0 people coming in? There's no trade. There's no people coming in on visas. There's no people coming in. What does that mean?
That's a good question. Is it just people or is it everybody?
Well, I don't know. People are saying you got a secure border, but what does that look like?
It looks
you got to tell me.
Looks like North Korea.
Back in when Obama was president, he deported more than people than Trump did.
Yeah.
Obama did. But the reason he did is when Obama became president, he wanted to pass an immigration reform. His goal was to pass an immigration reform. But his Republican colleagues said, well, we can't be with you on a reform until the border's secured.
Mm-hmm.
So he started deporting more people, showing his actions. Okay, I'm going to do all these things to make you feel more comfortable that the border's secured. But then the Republicans said, nah, we ain't going to do it. If I were Trump's advisor, I would say, Trump, look, these next 2 years, you deport as many people as you want. Get them out. Get all the criminals, felons, all these people that us as immigrants don't want either.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them here either. I don't want them here. When I say I'm helping immigrants and pro-immigrant, I'm not saying, John, I'm supporting these sex abusers, drug dealers, cartel, thieves. I don't want them here either.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're from Mexico doesn't mean I support them. I don't want them here. And I think that's a misconception that people are getting, that just because we're advocating for immigration reform or to help immigrants doesn't mean we want the bad people here. We're okay with Trump taking them.
Right.
We'll support them. We'll help them. Right?
Okay.
It's just the innocent people that are going to be caught in this. Securing the border. Well, however that, which nobody's
Whatever that looks like. Yeah.
whatever it looks like, nobody can answer it, right? And then he comes back and says, we're going to pass a reform because we've gotten rid of these so-called, well, they are because they were felons and bad people. But what about these other 8-9 million that have been here for a long time, have roots here, have been productive patrons,
paid their dues
pay their dues?
Yeah.
Why don't we pass a reform to help them?
Like they did back in...
Like they did back when 86,
Uh-huh.
right? Pass a reform. Get it over with. So it doesn't become an issue down the road.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Luis, you got your question?
Luis?
It's not as deep. Okay. Is John Silos your real legal name, or is it
Your stage name.
a persona, or is it an ego, or is it because you are Mexican, you were born in Mexico, and I've never met another Mexican named John Silos. You've met, how many Luises have you met in your life?
How many Jose's have you met?
It's a good question.
Like you're asking, like, what's my legal name?
I asked the question the way I wanted it answered. There's no-
My legal name is Juan Manuel Silos. If that's what you're looking for.
Juan Manu.
See what happens?
Juan Manuel Silos.
See what happens when you give them a green card?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like me. I went from Luis to Luis.
Yeah. I went from Joe to Jose. This is a true story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why.
Yeah.
So when people call my office and say, I want to talk to Joe, then I know I grew up with him. Because that's all what I was called was Joe until I went to college.
To this day, everywhere we go, they're like, "Hey Joe, hey Joe, hey Joe,"
And
I'm
they're
like,
friends of mine from Spring Hill. So I know they were friends.
What will you change your name to, Chris?
I have a very white name, so I'll probably keep it. It's gotten me a lot of jobs. Christopher Johnson.
My last question for you is: if today was your last day on Earth, what would you tell humanity?
I would say live life to the fullest.